Hello. We're going to get started. I want to thank everyone for coming and welcome you to the IAA Principal Step Community Forum. And I can barely see. I'm Bonnie Johnson-Aiken, and I'm currently the principal at Milton Elementary, and I will be moderating tonight's forum. I will be joined by members of our hiring committee. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. Just so that you know, I want to acknowledge and honor the diversity that exists in this community. For this forum, our district liaisons, multilingual liaisons, are providing interpretation services for the event for our community members who do not speak English. So we're going to remind the candidates and let you know that they will be pausing a second after the question is asked. The team can translate the question before translating your answers. So please join me in thanking the multilingual liaisons for joining us tonight. I also want you to join me in thanking the IAA Principal Hiring Committee. So in addition to myself, we have Zahar Adan, who is a parent and a multilingual liaison. Kristen Bingle, who is an IAA English learning teacher. Aaron Kronfeld, who is a parent and representing the IAA PTO. Melissa Rose, IAA elementary teacher. Emily Tennerton, IAA art coach. And Jody Walsh, who's not here tonight, but she is a community partner with the Lake Champlain Chamber Music Festival. So the hiring committee is very interested in hearing your feedback. So you'll notice that there are QR codes here and on the door, on both doors, as well as on the screen, and also on the BSD website, where you can go in and log in your feedback. That'll be really important in helping the hiring committee make a recommendation to our superintendent. Please remember to do that by March 7th, which is Monday, because we're moving along in the process and really would like as much input from the community and parents as possible. So the format's slightly different than what I think if you've been here before in terms of forums. What we're doing tonight is it's structured in such a way that you'll see each candidate one at a time. The candidates will be asked the same question, and they'll have approximately 20 to 30 minutes in which you will have an opportunity to hear from them. Before we get started, we're also going to have you view a video of all three candidates, which is their introduction that we use to screen all the candidates, all the applicants that we got. So you're going to see what we saw. You'll see all three of them, and then we'll bring them in one at a time. And as a reminder, their bios or their biographies are also on the website. So without further ado, I think I will have you watch the screen, and then we'll bring Jessica, will be our first candidate, and you will see her about 6 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jessica Ochs. I am applying for the Integrated Arts Academy administrative position. My background is I have an undergrad degree, Bachelor of Music in Music Ed from Penn State College, New Hampshire, and an undergrad Bachelor of Arts degree in Technical Theater. So as you can tell, my background in the arts area is quite vast. I'm well versed in all state and national standards in music, art, movement, and the like. In addition to these degrees, I have a master's degree in education and a certificate of advanced graduate studies from St. Michael's College. Val Gardner was my advisor at St. Mike's, and underneath him, before her was Secretary Dan French. For the past 20 years, I've been teaching music in Grand Isle School, where I taught K-8 until the merger under Act 46 a few years ago, and now I'm teaching K-6. I've enjoyed getting to know all the kids. I love what I do. I want to be able to help in a larger sense for kids. music has been a vessel to help kids, but what I really want is all kids to be happy, healthy, successful members of society when they grow up. I believe as an administrator in helping to impact policy and improvements in school and improvements in learning is a pathway for that, which is why I want to move into administration. In particular, I'm interested in the Integrated Arts Academy as it merges my background in the fine arts with administration. I hold a strong belief that arts are one of the strongest ways to boost social and emotional learning and to connect all pathways in the brain for increased outcomes for kids. I will always do what's right for kids and what's best for them. And I'm eager for this opportunity to be part of the Integrated Arts Academy and part of the team to help all kids be happy and successful.
Hello, my name is Andy Johnson. I've been an arts educator for 18 years. I have ties to Burlington, 2 of those years of teaching being at Edmonds and Hunt Middle School as the orchestra program was starting in the district. Why Integrated Arts Academy? I'll first answer why Burlington and the community of students that Integrated Arts Academy serves. I'm committed to serving all students, having taught in urban, rural, and suburban settings. I really do embrace the beauty and culture and diversity that is in Burlington. My leadership work in Madison, Wisconsin was focused on culturally responsive teaching and understanding how teachers can disrupt the systems that have historically failed to serve all students. Secondly, I need to address the opportunity of leading an arts-centered school and bringing my experience as an arts educator to the position. Understanding the core standards, pedagogy, and having maintained relationships with artists and arts organizations, it gives me a unique perspective in this leadership role. And I know with humility that each arts discipline is unique. And I will allow myself the time to interact with the talented staff at Integrated Arts Academy, to conduct research, and grow in my knowledge and understanding. As an educator and leader, I have led professional development with the intention of dismantling our systems of oppression. And in my current position at Milton Elementary School, I'm working with the team to improve school culture and climate, and on a separate initiative in partnership with district administration, focusing on revitalizing our EST process to meet the unique needs of our students at such a large elementary school in Milton. At Integrated Arts Academy, I would work together with the community to take on our challenges with focus and long-term solutions that will have meaningful and equitable impact to the future lives of all students. We owe it to our students to get this right and yield measurable improvement over time.
Hi, I'm Mattie Scheidt. Thank you for the opportunity to interview for the principalship at the Integrated Arts Academy. I have really enjoyed being the interim principal at the Integrated Arts Academy for the past 3 months. It's been a wonderful opportunity, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to potentially be the principal there for long term. A little bit about myself is I started my teaching career in New York City as a special educator. And we were coming to Vermont every weekend to go skiing, so we decided to move to Burlington, Vermont 22 years ago. And I got a job at Centerpoint School as a special ed coordinator. And during that time, I was also working towards my degree in leadership at UVM. And I had the opportunity to move to Burlington School District as a special ed behavior specialist. So I did that for 5 years, and during that time, we also had kids who started at the Burlington School District and also graduated through the Burlington School District. So I have been really part of this community for many years. I then, once I got my leadership degree, I went to Essex Middle School for a year and then went to Milton Elementary School for 5 years. And when I noticed that there were some jobs open back up in Burlington where I really wanted to be, I applied and was placed at Hunt Middle School as the assistant principal for a year, and then had the opportunity to become the principal 5 years ago. It's been a great experience, and I really enjoy working with community members and students in Burlington. Why do I want to be at the Integrated Arts Academy? As a principal at Hunt, I was able to get to know many students who were Integrated Arts Academy students and families, and I was always really impressed with how excited they were around learning. And I believe a piece of that is around the mission of the Integrated Arts Academy, which is to explore knowledge through intentional experiences. I really saw that when kids were coming into 6th grade, and how they had really great public speaking skills and really just were excited about learning. And I think that came from the Integrated Arts experience. And I also just love how much the community is at IAA. It is a really special place, and I would love to be part of that.
Everyone staying warm?
Hi, Jessica, again. Emily Sitterton, Arts Coach. I have the first question again. So, what is your vision for IAA? Please consider both academics and social emotional learning, as well as our commitment to arts integration. So, my vision for this community, and really it's more of a broader vision for all kids. I've been a music teacher for 20 years, but it took me about year 10 or 12. Like, it's not music that's my passion. My passion is helping kids to be happy and healthy. I want all kids to succeed, not just here, but beyond, whatever success is for them. And success for academics, having them reading so that they can be productive in society with whatever their passion and goals are. That is my vision for this school, to be successful, have a team where everyone cares about each other and everyone cares about the kids. That's really what I want. Sorry, it's a two-part question. So with the two parts, social emotional has to come first. If kids aren't happy and they don't feel safe, they aren't going to be able to learn. So we have the social emotional taken care of, and then we start to work on the academics. If kids are happy and they're feeling healthy and safe, they'll get the skills they need so that they can be successful in our society. Thank you. Arts integration. With the arts integration, I want to make sure that the students are acquiring 21st skills. So it's not simply integrating here, but they can take that knowledge and transfer it to something else they want to do, whatever they're passionate about. Whether, a great example, the Crown Point Bridge over the lake down in Charlotte area, been down that way in 2 years. But it takes an artist to have a vision for how it's gonna look in the setting, as well as the engineering and the math. So we have to make sure the kids have all of those skills so that they can follow whatever dreams they wanna have.
Hi.
I'm Erin. We met on this. Oh, that's right. Yeah, nice to see you. So, during these challenging times, how do you develop and maintain a dynamic, positive community among students, families, and the whole IAA community?
Well, I'm hoping that with COVID lessening, we'll be able to have parents in the building more. Parents need to see what the kids are doing and need to be able to partake in that. I love to have all school events where it could be something as simple as everyone's playing outside for the last 15 minutes of the day, so they can really integrate and talk with each other. The older kids can hang out with the little ones, they can see each other. One of my biggest and most favorite things to do to build relationships and that positive culture in a building among students is book buddies. So the older kids are reading to the younger students are reading to the older ones. They make the friendships among the grade levels, and they're practicing their reading skills with a peer. It's a great way for both the older and the younger student to learn more. And the same thing can be done with playing instruments. The older kids can show the younger kids can show the older kids. Those cross grade level connections are really making that culture safe and happy. Sorry for viewing, there's 4 words. And then, I know there's another question about this after, but communication with families, making sure everyone knows what's going on in the building, and inviting them in as much as possible. Having community-wide events. If there's a performance that night, make sure everyone knows about it, and as most people can come as possible. If they can, YouTube it. We have the technology now so everyone can see it, even with busy lives.
Hi.
So, you were sent an article last week describing an incident that occurred in a school in Florida in which a student wrote racist, bigoted language and symbols on the wall of their school bathroom. If this incident occurred at IAA under your leadership, this is 2 big questions. What would be your initial first step for the student who created the graffiti? What steps would you take to support the community at large so that all students and families feel like IAA is a safe space to learn and grow?
Thank you. With this incident, with hate speech being so strong and blatant in the article, it's important to understand 2 things with the student. What was their intent, and then what is the impact of their actions? A big part of the steps with the child, 1, keep in mind it's gonna look very different for a 5-year-old who might be colored on the walls because they saw their big brother drawing it at home, or a 5th grader who understands everything and really has some serious hatred and challenges. Regardless, the student would be part of cleaning it up. I would want to make sure they understand that speech and symbols and drawings like that are not tolerated here. Even if they are at home, it's not okay in schools, it's not okay in our society. And then obviously talking with the parents, making sure the parents know what happened, and that parents understand the expectations and what challenges that, what consequences are going to be happening. And the last piece would be education for the student, making sure the student really understands why it's not okay, what those symbols mean, and how it can really hurt people, and making sure they know the impact of their actions. it's from looking online, there's amazing resources in this district to help with those areas. And really making sure and supporting the student to make sure it doesn't happen again. And then the second part, steps to support the community, first identifying the victims, who saw it, who's impacted by it, who needs support, so that they feel safe in school, making sure that, really wrapping around those kids and making sure they know they're safe and that this is not going to be a normal thing here. There's not going to be an act because of these images. And definitely, most importantly, informing the community what happened before the end of the day. I personally am not a fan of robocalls. They're really impersonal. I would much rather send a letter or an email because it's impossible to call every parent. The kids who are directly impacted, the direct victims, I would call those parents. But for the larger community, before the end of the day, making sure that the community knows the facts, what actions we're taking to make it better, and then following up with that later, making sure everyone knows what's happening, what steps we took, and then digging deeper to find out what is the symptom of an underlying current. Do we have a problem with hate speech in the building? Is this a larger problem that we might need to make more steps to fix? And then in there, before rumors can go around by kids, I know kids quite well, they like to talk, oh, I saw this in the bathroom. Making sure all the staff know what the facts are, so that staff, if they hear anything, they can direct the kids, no, that's not what happened, yes, that is what happened. It's getting taken care of, you're safe. And just my biggest thing would be really supporting the victims who are impacted and making sure the student, the perpetrator, whoever wrote the hate speech, is really getting educated so they know that it's wrong. They know why, and they know not to do it again.
All right. So this is related to communication. And what have you found to be the most effective ways to communicate with families to ensure that they understand what is happening at school, know how to be a part of it when they need to be, and have the tools to support student learning? That's the first part. And I can give it to you separately if you want. Okay, and the second part is what would your expectations would you set for teacher communication? Okay?
I have found one of the best ways to communicate with the community is a weekly newsletter. And the easiest way to do that is, it's actually a Google slide, weekly newsletter, a letter from the principal about what's been happening in the building, what we're working on, and then a class slide. So every teacher can simply input what they have, what's been going on in their classroom this week. Oh, next Friday is pajama day. Students earned 100 rewards through PBIS and we're celebrating. That way it's quick for parents to communicate with the families, and parents in one spot get all of the information at once. And then because it's email, there's links to other supports that parents might need, more information, ways to sign up. That's the quickest way I found. If folks don't all have internet, it can easily be printed and made for kids, made for parents, need a written copy. But that is the easiest way I've found to communicate. And another thing I like doing is it's been a habit of mine, where once a week I'll call one or two families and say, hey, your kid did an amazing job on this. This is why, and I want to make sure you know that too. That way, when you see the school call, it's not just like, oh, what did Johnny do? Oh no, is Johnny sick? Do I have to leave work? You're getting positive information too. And that would be my biggest communication point. what expectations would, you said for teacher communication? I would expect teachers that are doing a weekly newsletter, if they choose not to do the school-wide one, they can do their own, but at a minimum, filling out one Google slide to send out to families so that everyone knows what's going on and colleagues know what's going on in the building. That's not a large ask for staff to do, and it's a quick way to inform people. And then I would encourage staff as well to do the same, have it, I would form a call to parent, let them know what great work your kid is doing, even if it's a quick email. Those things are too much time away from teacher planning and meetings and everything else teachers have to do, but it's a great way for parents and community to know what's going on. And then in the larger set, I would want to make sure that school website, classroom web pages or sign are up to date, making sure parents know the curriculum and the units that are happening within the school. That sort of stuff.
Jessica, that was the last question. And wondering if there's any last words you'd like to say to the parents and community that are here.
I have a very large background in the arts, music, theater. I even had to do modern dance and actually dance, and these feet weren't made for dancing, but I did it. So that is a very strong area for me, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to be in a building that embraces that and really values that in the community. It does so much for kids, and even if it's not me, I'm really happy to see that someplace in Vermont is a beautiful spot where it's happening. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck. So we're getting the next candidate, who is Andy Johnson, and he'll be right here. And then we'll go through the same process again. Thank you.
Been a request. I just like this. All right, our next candidate is Andy Johnson. And here you are, and Emily, you have the first question.
Thanks for being here. I have the first question for you guys. It's a different one. What is your vision for IAA? Please consider both academics and social emotional learning, as well as our commitment to arts integration.
Thank you. So, hello everyone, Andy Johnson. So my vision for IAA is really, it has to start with your vision. I got these belief statements that are very thorough. If you haven't seen them, there are 10 of them. They go through creating a safe space, and they focus on the arts integration and many points to it. And so my vision is your vision. So personally, I come to education and with the idea that it's based on creating a safe space where all students feel welcome and they feel safe to learn. And we also have to maintain a rigorous learning environment for all students. And then all the adults in the building have to have the belief that all students can learn and achieve at high levels. So that's our job as a school. And arts integration at IAA is the vehicle to get to our belief statements and this vision of meeting the needs of all students. And as an arts educator, I'm very familiar with the engagement piece of this, of the arts as a music teacher, as well as the therapeutic benefits of moving together and singing together and what it does for people's brains and emotions and physically. So academically, we have to use this idea of arts integration to drive students' learning and meet the needs of all students. So in order to do that, we need to know our students. So the curriculum, what we are teaching them, has to be a reflection of our students. So we get to know them. We know their cultural background. We know their community. We know where what they're bringing to school every day, and we meet them where they are. And that's very important. Our curriculum and our interaction with students is built on who they are. And then our social emotional learning, it has these benefits, but it needs to be universal. Sometimes social emotional learning can be something that's given a time for the day and then it's not incorporated for the rest of the school day, but the language that we use and how we interact with students and the tools we can give caretakers to use with students needs to be universal so that the expectation for a student is the same throughout the school day and in all environments. So that's my vision for IAA.
Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Erin. Hi. Good to see you again. So my question is, during these challenging times, how do you develop and maintain a dynamic, positive community among students, families, and the whole IAA community? Are we pausing enough for the translator? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. No.
We're gonna pause and then, yeah.
Yes. So creating a really strong community has to be built on students learning and this goal that we have. So if we keep that at the center of what we do, we want our students to learn and we want them all to achieve at high levels and feel welcome. So if that's the centerpiece of what we're doing, we're starting in a good place. And then we're celebrating all of our progress. And we're doing that through positive reinforcement, and that in a school that often looks like teachers giving students positive reinforcement so that they know what the expected behavior is. But it really needs to be positive reinforcement for all people. All the adults need to be positive and recognize when they see the accomplishments and energy and love that they're giving to their students every day. So if we are seeing something in a neighboring classroom, we're saying, oh wow, look what you did, I saw that lesson, you engaged that student that I haven't seen that engaged yet, awesome work, that's positive. Okay, and if that is just the culture of our school, and then the students are seeing the adults doing that with each other, it's infectious, and it's positive, and it feels good. You also have to give yourself positive reinforcement. So that goes into how our social emotional learning is structured, so that students are learning to feel positive about themselves, and staff are celebrating their own successes and their own lives publicly with the rest of the staff. So we need to create this really positive culture that is open and communicative, and it's infectious to all people, because we all need that. And we need to give that to caretakers too, right? Your work is hard. I have 2 children. It's really hard work. And that needs to be recognized and celebrated. We see all the positive work that you're putting in.
Okay. So last week you were sent an article describing an incident that occurred in a school in Florida in which a student wrote racist and bigoted language and symbols on the wall of their school bathroom. If this incident occurred at IAA under your leadership, what would be your initial first step for the student who created the graffiti? And what steps would you take to support the community at large so that all students and families feel like IAA is a safe space to learn and grow?
Thank you. So I think initially, this is a time when we need to get to know, we have to know the student. We have that built-in relationship with that student. So that's going to be our connection piece. And then we need to find out, what is the intention of what happened? Was this to get attention? Was this targeted at people? Or was it copying something they've seen? What was their intention? So from there, we can find resources to help them. And they're going to need some kind of counseling. And we're going to reach out to the community to see who are the experts who can help that student. How can they learn from this? Because they have to know that this did harm to others, even if they didn't intend it to. It was painful, and it causes harm. It causes harm for a while. And the consequences have to be proportional and consistent with what happened, because as a school community, we need to know this is taken very, very seriously. And for the community, we need to heal, because pain was inflicted and felt, and we need to work together to create a healing experience so that we can move out of this stronger. And that's going to be offering counseling for those that need it, using restorative circles in classes, and that needs to be done with training for the staff, because they need to be given the tools to do this after this event. And as far as communication, it needs to be timely, and the facts need to be given, right? And because there are going to be a lot of things, if this happened, there are going to be a lot of things that are going to be said and felt, and the facts need to be communicated clearly and consistently to families throughout this process. And we're going to keep students safe. That's our number one goal, is keeping students safe. And that's part of that communication, is that we are going to do that throughout this process. And as stakeholders, we need to come together and figure out, how are we going to heal? In what way does IAA heal through this? Is it with art? Is it with music? How do we come together and use our assets to heal through this? And then, looking forward, we need to communicate all of the work that we're doing as a district and school with diversity and equity and inclusion. So that needs to be communicated. Where are we in that process? What have we done? And where are we headed? And there probably needs to be an increased level of communication on that for a while after this incident so that the whole community is aware of where we're at and what we're doing.
Last question for you. It has to do with communication. So it's a perfect segue to my question, which is, what have you found to be the most effective ways to communicate with families to ensure they understand what is happening at school, know how to participate when there are needs, and have the tools to support their student learning? That's the first part of the question. The second part is, what expectations would you set for teachers' communication?
So there's a lot in communication. So effective ways are building strong relationships. And that starts with one-on-one personal conversations, phone calls, right? That is how we build those strong relationships. So that's really important that that's always happening. We also need to know there's not a one-size-fits-all communication with all caretakers and all families. So what works for some people isn't used by others. So we need to figure out who are we not hearing back from, how do we, what other methods do we need to come up with to meet those needs and have clear communication. And it might be reaching out and going to community centers, going to the places where families are. And then as far as families knowing how to support their students, having documentation, having a place where you can refer back to, it's really important that that is available all the time and that we have a place to point you. And the orientation of being at the beginning of the year, all of that is well communicated, but also here is where you're going to go when you need that, because you're not going to need it possibly at the beginning of the year. You're going to need to know it when you need to know it. And so we need to reach out to you and feel like that we are always doing that when we feel like there might be a need. Here's where that is. Let's go over that. And for tools that you may need, that can be the classroom teacher giving you those tools. Also having what I said before about clear expectations for social emotional learning and the language that we use at school so that you can reinforce those skills at home. So what is done at school can be reinforced at home. Expectations for teachers, that there's some kind of universal tool that is used throughout the whole school, because when different teachers or grade levels are using different tools and a parent has 4 children in the school, that's a lot to navigate. That's too much. So we need to have something that's consistent, that everyone's using, be that a Seesaw or a blog, somewhere that, and you're seeing your child, in these times. I've been in my child's school in 2 years, and you need to see what the classroom looks like. That is really, really helpful as a parent. And then as far as communication, when a parent reaches out to you, something that worked really well for another school is that was 24 hours. So you need to get back in 24 hours no matter what. So there has to be just kind of a clear expectation that's realistic, 24 hours of the work week, but that's consistent and we're held accountable to that as professionals. Because families deserve that. And And then there are going to be some students that are going to need constant communication, right? Where the teacher is going to need to reach out much more. And we need to make sure that that's done equitably, not from caretakers who are asking for that, but we're seeing who really needs that communication. And are we giving that to those students? What data is there that reinforces that this is a need for that student? And we need to set a standard, through our multiple tiers of systems of support. There has to be something clear where that's a student that gets more communication because it's really needed for their learning. And that's something we do as a school.
Thank you. That's the last question. And I didn't know if you had anything you'd like to say to the parents and the community before we say goodnight to you.
Just thank you for coming here. You read my bio. I worked in Burlington a number of years ago, and Bonnie was my principal. And as a musician and arts teacher, I feel truly committed to this idea of arts integration, that there is a connection, that we make together through the arts, that we can't use language. Language doesn't really meet those needs. Moving together, making music together, making art together, it really does connect us and engages with the world in a way that's unique. And we can do really special things here at IAA. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello? All right. This is Mattie. I think most of you know her, and she is our third and final candidate for the evening. And Emily, where are you?
Mattie. First question. What is your vision for IAA? Please consider both academics and social emotional learning as well as our commitment to arts.
Thank you, Slate. Thanks for being here. So my first thing is IAA has always had a very strong community, and during COVID, we've lost part of that. So I think one of the first things is just rebuilding that community feel, getting parents back into the school, back into the community, doing more outdoor events, or indoor events, hopefully next fall. And also to get families reconnected, going into classrooms. We're starting to get volunteers back into the building. Thanks to a student and the PTO, we're getting Move It going again, that the kids are super excited about. So those are all those pieces of IAA that make this school so special. So that's my vision going forward, and just building on what has already been established. Also, continuing working with our community. Oh, do I want to pause or? Okay. Continuing with our community partners around the integrated arts programming, and establishing new community partners as well. Emily has been an amazing coach and has been really mentoring me on what integrated arts are. That is something that I have not come to IAA with. But I have an expert on hand and many of our teachers have been trained in it. So allowing them to use their leadership and teaching me and all our new staff on what integrated arts are. We also, just with training new staff, we have Kelly Becker, who is a UVM professor, who is starting to do some workshops with us around integrated arts. And the hope is we got past the budget, thank you, to get rides. We have our rides funds, and we have some training money available. So we're hoping to use Kelly next year to do monthly PD as for staff and take that PD, practice it for a month, and then have her come back and work with us around what went well, what we need to tweak. So that would be all year long instead of just doing a one-shot deal. Also, we have a great partnership with the Kennedy Center and allowing that to continue. Emily and Piper have been going to workshops and they've been meeting new artists, and hopefully Emily's got some fabulous ideas around local artists for next year coming in. And we've also been talking about after school is we have so many kids here after school, and in partnership with the after school program, trying to build some arts into the after school programming as well. So lots of ideas, and I'm hoping a lot of them happen. And then the academic piece is working with staff, reviewing data, and also doing success protocols instead of always seeing what we're not doing well, to see what we're doing well and why kids are learning, and really growing kids from that. We have a new reading program. Thank you, Melissa, who's been piloting it this spring, and making sure the staff have a full understanding about a new reading program, and that we're giving them time to learn it and know it and practice it. So just working with Tom around making sure that staff have enough time for that. And also we have intervention blocks that are built into our master schedule. And we need to make sure that we're doing intervention, but also extension. So recognizing that we might need to reteach some kids some skills, but also we have kids who've gotten those skills, and how can we extend, like if they got geometry, what can they do after that, you know, to build on that. So just looking at both ends for students. And I think those were my major points for that.
I'm nodding right. All right, so for this question, we are going to be talking about the challenging times that we have here and how you plan to develop and maintain a dynamic, positive community among students, families, and the whole IAA community.
So I have had the opportunity to be in classrooms and just being with students organically. Being out at recess with them, being in PE with them, having fun with them, and just being there for them. So I think that's how I build relationships with kids. Also doing celebrations. So we haven't been able to do big school-wide celebrations, but going into classrooms when the kids earn their roar points, and going in and celebrating with them about success. Also, when our school gets 100 roar light bulbs, we get a big celebration. So working with the PBIS team around being part of that. And we did a dance party, which I was able to DJ when I first came here, which really just showed the kids like, yes, I am the principal, but I'm also human and like to have fun, and for them to get to know me on a different level. I have been working with the PTO. I think that's what a missing piece is for me right now, is during COVID, that connection with families and parents, and just like if you were all to take your mask off, I'd be like, whoa, wait, I think I know you, but and even with the kids at lunch, they take off their mask and I'm walking around, and I'm like, I don't know your whole face, so it's going to be, again, relearning once masks come off, looking at each other as a community and relearning students with, you know, their whole faces. And how can we reopen the community safely? So, we are gonna be for kindergarten and first grade families. Those families have never been into the school. They're brand new to the community. So the 17th, we're gonna do bring your parent or guardian to school day, and parents are gonna be able to come into the classrooms and get a tour, just so we can start slowly getting families back into the community. Again, Emily's been working on spring arts programs and that are going to be outside, but those are all bringing community together. This school was kept open for a reason, is that people fought really hard for a neighborhood school 13 years ago when they're like, hey, you know, do we need to have this school? And this neighborhood and this community said yes. And I think that shows in everything that this community does.
You were sent an article last week describing an incident that occurred in a school in Florida in which a student wrote racist and bigoted language and symbols on the wall of their school bathroom. If this incident occurred at IAA under your leadership, what would be your initial first step for the student who created the graffiti? And what steps would you take to support the community at large so that all students and families feel like IAA is a safe space to learn and grow?
So after looking at the photo of the graffiti, I would be directly impacted by the graffiti. So I would have to take some deep breaths and make sure that I was being neutral in how I was managing the graffiti in the bathroom. So that would just be for me to take a couple deep breaths. And then with the student, if we knew who did it, which the article said we did, is to have that student meet with a trusted adult and find out, get their statement to see what was going on for them, write it down. Also, eventually I would call the parents. We would need to open a harassment investigation just because of the type of graffiti. So that would be going along with this all. I would try to separate the student at this point from the community, again, not just to make sure that they were safe and to get a better understanding. This is a multi-step process. This wouldn't all be done in one day. I would then try to reach to find what students actually saw the graffiti and have a conversation with them, get their statements, and call the parents with those students because they've been directly impacted. What I've been learning from my time at Hunt is what I didn't do a good job of, and I've learned is that I was thinking that only the kids who saw the graffiti were impacted, but it's much bigger than that. The graffiti impacts our whole community, and just to recognize that I need to let the whole community know what's going on, so parents have an opportunity to talk to their kids about what's going on. I think, you know, you don't want to be putting your child to bed at 8 o'clock at night and saying, hey, you know, mom or dad, this happened at school today, and you don't have that information. You're like, oh boy, that's a really tough conversation to be having at 8 o'clock at night. So I would try to work with the equity. I would call the equity department and say, hey, this is going on. Can you help me write an email to the families that's age appropriate to what's going on? And then I would meet with the students who saw it, and then I would meet also with the student who did the graffiti, send an email out. And then the restorative practices is going to be really important. And again, this was a multi-step process that we would do affinity groups and have some type of circle so kids could talk about what they saw or how they are feeling in a safe way. And then with the student who did the graffiti, they need to be willing to do the restorative practice. You can't force that. So if they were wanting to, we could figure out how they can make repairs back to the community. Or there's definitely that educational component around how that impacted the community. So if they weren't able to do the restorative practices then I would do just the educational component, but the hope is that they can do both. And then I would try to be transparent as possible, but also just making sure that I was trying to keep privacy of the student who did the graffiti as well. And again, this is something I have been really truly working on from, for the last 5 years. I had some missteps. I've been meeting with parents. I've been learning. I've been taking classes, and just taking responsibility for my actions and just learning and listening.
All right, Mattie, we have the last question, and it has to do with communication. So, what have you found to be the most effective ways to communicate with families to ensure they understand what is happening at school, know how to participate when there is a need, and have the tools to support their students' learning? That's the first part. The second part is, what expectations would you set for teacher communication?
I think for the last 2 years, we have gotten email after email after email, and our email boxes are full, and we don't read them. We just are like, oh, another email from this, and so what I've been trying to do is do my bi-weekly dispatch, and I've been trying to just use photos, and that's accessible for everyone. If your child wants to see what's going on, or English is not your first language, you can open up my dispatch and be like, oh, this is happening in K, or pictures just say so much about our community, especially right now where parents can't be in there. So I would like to be predictable that you're going to get a monthly newsletter from the whole school that Bill puts together, and then bi-weekly you'll get a dispatch from me, and when Russ sends me information, he's like, can you put this in the newsletter? I'll be adding those things just so you have that information in more than one spot. So they might do an email blast from the district, but I would then say, oh, okay, I'll put that in too so they can see it more often. I firmly believe that if a parent's reaching out to me via email or phone call, to get back to them within 24 hours. So I feel that's really important. I also will probably not email you back, and I'll pick up the phone and try to call you. I think so much gets lost in emails and tone, and I feel like it's just really important to have a conversation with parents. I want to go back to the graffiti around communication, is to make sure the liaisons are also getting the information, so all families can have that information as well. I know with the communication piece, Russ has been working with us around when our newsletters go out that they can be interpreted, so all families have access to that. And then the alert nows, again, emails are not working so well. So the text messages can only be 160 characters, which keeps it super short. So if it's something that needs to be done, like rapid test, I would probably just send it out as a text message, because parents will be like, oh, that's 160 characters. I can do that. And it's easy, and most of us have text messaging right now. And then teachers, it's important for them to do weekly newsletters. And the newsletters that come out of this building are incredible. Like, I get them all, and I'm so entertained with like Mr. Wheel's email, or they have stories going on and videos, and so every teacher does it differently, but they're full of warmth and learning. So I think those are really important. I also feel like teachers should be getting a hold of you within 24 hours if you emailed them. Probably not if it's like Saturday, they might get back to you Sunday evening. And that you should not be blindsided as a parent. If your student is not doing well academically or behaviorally, it breaks my heart when I'm sitting in a meeting and parents are like, wait, we're 5 months into school and I'm just learning this now. So to really be communicating with parents, whether it's good or bad, or a little balance of both, that you should know what's going on for your student in this building. And I also feel like if the teacher is like, you're having a hard time, you're like, I called and they haven't gotten back, just to email me and I'll be like, talk to the teacher and say, hey, this parent's really concerned, you need this, or guardian's really concerned, can you get back to them? So open communication, and I think the teachers are, from what I've seen, are available in the morning and checking in as well with parents. So again, this is an amazing community where it seems like all the teachers also know all the kids. So we had a new staff start with that lunch duty, and I said, if you don't know something, all the staff can tell you what child that is, who their siblings are, and also like how to do every duty in the school. And you can't say that about every elementary school. So it's a great community, and I hope I can be part of it.
So that is the end, unless you want to say any final words, although we much like you already have. Your choice, your call.
No, thank you, and even if I'm not chosen, I do love this community, and I will finish out the year and leave the school in a strong position to move forward for next year.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end. Thank you and good luck. I want to do two things. One, thank you for being here. That's really important. I know how important principals are to their families and community, so it's great that you're involved, and we really appreciate you coming out on such a cold night. And I want to remind you that we really, really want your input. We will be making a recommendation to the superintendent early next week. So there's a QR code here. It's also here, and it's on both doors. You can get to the form to fill it out. It's also on the BSD website if you miss it. But definitely let us know how you feel. Give us your impressions, and yeah. And by Monday, March 7th, end of the day, right? Noon, okay. Not as much time as I thought you had. So, by noon on Monday. Again, thank you for coming out, and safe travels home.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to fill out the form. Good night.